What if
Real cool.
you're intimate with a girl that has been traveling a lot? Is that
Yeah.
possible to,
It,
just
no,
like that?
it absolutely is, and I know someone it just happened to. I wanted to bring up another housekeeping issue something great happened last week. I discovered that one of our listeners went to his doctor, as we always recommend them, to check for H. pylori. It's a really easy test. And I think since we have a big viewership here, I'd love people to know there's a bacteria, pathologic bacteria, that about 50% of the world's population has. Now, a lot of that is because a lot of people live in India and China, and there's a lot of H. pylori over there. But especially if you've traveled outside the North America and Western Europe recently, it's a great idea to check if you have H. pylori. Just today, I was surprised to find out that H. pylori is also associated with thyroid autoimmune disease, like Hashimoto's and Graves' disease, which, Derek, we were talking about last time. And of course, this gentleman was checking it out because of gastric cancers. H. pylori is one of the main causes of stomach cancer in the world. So if you're talking about dysbiosis in your microbiome, something we didn't talk about last time, it's an easy test. You go to your doctor, you do a breathalyzer, you find out, and you cure yourself before you get cancer. Great,
Yeah, I will
great.
definitely get that checked because I have stomach cancer in my family, and I went to China and India.
And you live in Thailand.
Yeah, and I live in Thailand, but I don't eat the Thai food, so I'm in the green. I cook most of my own food. I'm going for Lebanese tonight. After this podcast, I'm gonna have some hummus.
Well, what about that sandwich, that weekly sandwich?
I skipped.
Suspicious sandwich.
Suspicious.
That's the sandwich with the H. pylori. That's that nice.
No,
I know what you're talking about. Those nice, like in Dubai, we have them too. Like cafeterias make these amazing, cool sandwiches. In the West, they don't have. I don't know how to describe it, but they're like knockoff burgers with like a lot of ketchup and mayonnaise and different kinds of interesting things.
Mama burgers.
Yeah, exactly.
With Wonder Bread.
So is this something that you should proactively check for, or would it be something you'd only wait until you're symptomatic to check for?
Proactive. That's what I'm trying to say. I'm trying to say, maybe for your audience, if you could just announce to them, hey guys, there's this test. It's so easy to do. Probably, let's say if they're in the West, maybe 20% of them have it, and they can cure it really easily, prevent long-term effects with their, potentially stomach cancer, really a lot of dysbiosis in the microbiome. As I said, autoimmune even functions with the thyroid. The list goes on and on and on. In fact, it's very, South Korea has the highest rate of stomach cancer in the world, and they have the combination of two carcinogens. They have a high rate of H. pylori, and they eat kimchi, which both has, oh, no, I guess three carcinogens technically. Kimchi has then it has the capsaicin, as well as it's what do they call that when you have it's
In the probiotics that are in kimchi?
no, not probiotics, but like it's I don't know the word in English. When you store something and like keep it there for a while,
Ferment.
Plaque buildup in the intestinal plaque buildup. Or no?
Like sauerkraut. All of those kind of things are, I don't know what the word is in
Fermented,
English.
right?
I speak two languages. Yeah, I guess it's fermented. Yeah, that might be the word. It's like sauerkraut and all those. They're not just from pickled things. All those kind of things like that. Then there's another word than fermented and pickled. I forgot what it was. But all of those things are in the
preservatives, because that's why it's like preserved vegetables, right?
Essentially, I don't know what they call it, but the World Health Organization lists it as a carcinogen. It's well known to be like all pickled things are carcinogens. That's well known.
Vinegar?
Capsaicin, huh?
Vinegar? Because
no, not vinegar.
Kimchi, no,
not vinegar. That's the word that I'm looking for. Oh my god! Wait, I'm actually gonna pause this because what is this thing called?
Just Google it.
Pickled
you can
food
pause
risk
the
of gastric
Zoom
cancer. I paused it. Yeah.
Yeah, you can pause it.
Okay. Well, I guess they call it pickled food. I guess that's what it's called.
I leave it running for the outtakes.
Yeah, it's called pickled food. Yeah, it's called. I just googled it. It's called pickled food. You can just go on Google Scholar, right? Pickled food, gastric cancer.
Did you continue the recording?
No, I paused
did on my end.
Okay, so it's okay. Yeah, so before you continue, then make sure you hit the proceed button.
Yeah, so no, I did absolutely, but it's pickled foods. If you just go on Google Scholar, write pickled foods, cancer, you'll see it. It's a carcinogen, and then you have capsaicin combined with that, and then you have a lot of H. pylori. They have the #1 rate of gastric cancer in the world. So yeah, it's
I've
an
been
easy test to check.
So what
I've
do you
been
do
having
to
a lot of
fix it?
pickles.
Like antibiotic?
Nuclear antibiotics. They nuke you. It's pretty
Oh,
intense.
man.
They give you like several forms of them, and then you have to repopulate your microbiome, and who knows what the damage is there. But this thing is so cytotoxic that it causes cancers. Imagine the kind of
Does it go,
bacteria you're dealing
does
with.
it go systemic or stay in the intestinal tract?
It must. I don't know. I don't know if it goes
Yeah.
systemic. Most of the cancers are in the intestinal tract,
Hmm. Yeah.
but I don't know
So it's-
how what the extent of it is. Maybe one day I should do a dedicated video.
But
yeah.
there's that famous Brazilian jiu-jitsu guy who I sent you a couple days ago, and I've done a video on him before, and he's had brutal stomach issues for years on end, just relentlessly, apparently, to the point that he can't even eat almost enough to maintain his weight, let alone gain weight. I just put in the chat box his most recent post a couple days ago where he went to go test for H. pylori. And then he says, we have narrowed my stomach issues down to two things: bile reflux or gastroparesis, a situation where my stomach doesn't empty properly, meaning I can't get enough food to maintain and gain size because my stomach is always full from the last meal. Both cause nausea and both make eating hard. Both of them have treatments as well. And I will be doing some more virtual meetings with doctors this month to see what the best options are. Hopefully we can get this resolved and I finally reach my true athletic potential. Blah, 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 blah. He says he's been feeling like death and an interim vomiting the whole time, yet still managing to win for the last 3 years. So this guy, you know, a lot of people speculate about his hormone use and whatnot. And people were tagging me asking, is this steroid induced or what's the deal? And I know this is more of your guys' wheelhouse than mine as far as GI issues. So I wanted to defer to you and see what you thought on this in particular. Like the H. pylori thing obviously ties into this well. And the bile, I know, Steve, you often talk about that and what you could do to attenuate those issues. So
Yeah. So they did an ultrasound on this guy, right? Where did he post the results? Because I know we were talking about this a couple of days ago, and but I didn't follow up on it. So I mentioned, you know, a lot of guys get bile acid reflux or backflow or biliary obstruction because there's something wrong in the gallbladder. So maybe that's gallstones or some gallbladder inflammation, and that prevents, you know, the proper bile acid formation into the intestinal tract. And then now, you know, food doesn't get digested well, but they also don't detox the liver correctly. And you've seen that with a couple guys that have very high liver enzymes, and then, you know, clear stool basically because there's no bile acid that is able to color the stool. So that's the first, you know, that's why, you know, your grandmother always told you that sometimes you have to look in the toilet to see what's going on, right? That's
Yeah.
probably the first suggestion. Yeah.
Brief
Go
side
for it.
note, it's happened to me before because I used to be an alcoholic. What that looks like
Mm.
is pale stool for the audience
Yeah.
to know. It looks pale. It's not brown anymore. It's weird.
No, just chicken color, right? It's like chicken paste.
Mm.
Yeah, I've seen that before also. It's that was from a sickness I remember as I was younger. So with biliary obstruction, you know, you get like bile reflux is how you labeled it, right? But I'm not really sure if there's gallstones in his bladder, which requires surgery. You know, after me doing ultrasounds and being so open about it, of course, everybody starts sending me their ultrasound results. So I've been learning a lot over the last 4 months. And in his case, you know, is there Crohn's disease present? You know, causes inflammation of the intestinal tract also. So he would really have to look at his causes. Now, from steroids, I've never seen anybody get biliary obstruction or gallstones from steroids.
Mm.
It has to do with inflammation in the intestinal tract, which can cause that. And that's maybe steroids can exacerbate that, oral steroids. You know, you take a ton of Anadrol and, well, I'm going to assume that he didn't do that. But, you know, if you cause a lot of inflammation and maybe some androgen response in the intestinal tract, then, you know, biliary obstruction is a possibility, obviously. But if you stay on top of your taurine, which is a building block for bile acid, that's why we have the TUDCA, right? That's what the T stands for, the taurine activated UTCA. And that helps with bile acid excretion. So maybe he didn't have enough taurine. Maybe he depleted that. Maybe he wasn't on top of his TUDCA, or he has Crohn's disease or another form of irritable bowel syndrome that causes inflammation in the intestinal tract and just inhibits the bile acid from going into the intestinal tract. So my question to him would be, do you have gallstones, and how was your stool over the last X amount of years? And
No.
like I mentioned to you, Derek, is that somebody in his team, like these guys, they have a whole team. They have a nutritionist and a training partner, and you know, and this, and maybe a guy to help him beat the drug tests. Yeah, right. That would be my team. But they should have a nutritionist and do frequent blood work, and you know, but you know, maybe it's something that's like an underlying condition that you don't see in your blood work, and the stool is still the normal color, and then you just let it progress. You know, it's you have to be very proactive.
So on that side, we dealt with the bile acid stuff, and I can talk more about the gastrointestinal stuff. So I don't know anything about the gastric issue, gastric emptying that he's referring
Mhm.
to. I have no expertise on the stomach itself whatsoever, but I've studied extensively, of course, the GI tract, the microbiome, and all of that. Having myself most likely developed Crohn's disease because of steroid use. Most likely. I mean, there's a genetic predisposition. There was all of that kind of stuff. I had a lot of inflammation for a period of years. I quit smoking, which makes Crohn's disease more likely. In fact, smoking is protective for Crohn's disease, but actually, it's protective for colitis, I think. But anyway, it's one of them. I did a lot of things and then I stopped. So anyway, I got Crohn's disease. And so I went through it. I visited the best gastroenterologist doctors in the US. And basically, what I discovered is most of them don't know very much of what they're doing. It seems that the gastrointestinal system is one of the least understood systems in the body. They can take your fecal samples and you can have non pathologic bacteria, total fine bacterial diversity. They don't really understand the bacterial species. They, they can do a colonoscopy, find no inflammation in your gastrointestinal tract, and yet see a high C-reactive protein. You can have mucus coming out of your gastrointestinal tract every day, and yet there's no inflammation when they do their so-called colonoscopy because the measurement, you know, the tools are not fit to the task. So what I'm trying to say is he may never have very great luck actually just getting advice from the doctor. And that's why when I made my first video on Crohn's disease, which was like 30 minutes long, the end of the video, the question was, what should I do about Crohn's disease? Was basically, I don't know how I cured mine. Because I had like a couple of little incidents, like one day where I noticed something odd since then, but I lived in excruciating pain for 8 months. I mean, excruciating to the degree where my brain couldn't function. So I couldn't sit, I couldn't lay down, I couldn't walk properly. Like I would walk in circles from the pain for 8 months straight. It was unbelievable. And after 8 months, somehow, slowly, with the surgery and a few other things, because I had a complication, I had a precancerous growth. And after all of that, changing my lifestyle, everything changed slowly, but it wasn't one thing. So people have been emailing me since we last spoke, Derek, asking me like ideas, and I've given them many ideas, but it's an iterative approach of changing your diet, adding certain like short chain fatty acids, altering your inflammatory system, changing your daily behavior, and a great deal of things. What I think is probably happening is this guy's probably done what a lot of bodybuilders did, which is never listen to their body, don't know what they're doing with their diet, harm the GI tract with allergic reactions and the constant feeding. The GI tract can only work for a few hours a day efficiently. We know that from Sachin Panda, the father of circadian rhythm research. And I highly recommend his book, The Circadian Code, which is only 200 pages long. Everybody can read it, and it's very fun to read. You realize the GI tract stops working when you widen that time. These guys, like for example, we'll talk about Dave Palumbo later. They've been eating 24 hours a day, so every 3 hours, that thing is gonna cause malfunctioning eventually. And then you add on to that the inflammatory nature of their lifestyle. It's bound to happen. The weakest link will break first. For somebody, it may be rheumatoid arthritis. For somebody else, it may be their GI tract.
Yeah, I think, you know, and even an elimination diet. I think, Derek, did you mention that in one of your videos about the elimination diet taking years to really do properly? Was it you or Leo?
I
can't
didn't
remember.
mention time span, but I've talked about how that's, as far as I know, people with dysfunctional gastrointestinal issues and whatnot, they will often, you know, have to deploy an elimination diet and then slowly reintroduce one thing at a time. But I have no idea how long it takes to rectify it. And if you have something like H. pylori, can you even do can you even do it without the antibiotics? Like, I don't know the answer to that. I would
Oh
assume.
no. No, first of all, the first step is always to check your stool, your blood, and your breath. Check if there's any pathologic bacteria, nuke it, and then you repopulate, and then and of course your diet, and then you change your lifestyle. And then it's totally iterative at that point. So it takes a
So-
while. But for me, it was incredible. It was like a 3-month period where everything just reversed. And I went from being like I never thought there was pain like that. I'm sure there's no more pain than what I experienced. Like you could cut my hand off, I would have been the same. It was ridiculous. I mean,
Jeez.
and the worst part about it, honestly, because it's where the area is. That's why it's so bad. Mine was located in a very bad area, so it was very painful. But you know what the worst part is? I've never used opiates. I mean, I've tried heroin experimentally once or twice just to know what it was like because I try all drugs. I'm a person who's interested in subjective experiences. But I never tried opiates. I've never used an opiate, never almost. And then I had that excruciating pain. And the reason I never got into opiates is because I was afraid one day, what if I get an excruciating pain? I don't want to mess with that system. So I got in that pain. And then I go to the doctors. And of course, they give you 5 milligram oxycodone pills, something like that, like 5 of them. But I'm in the pain for 8 months. I end up having to go to the emergency room and ask them. It's like you have to fight with these guys because there's a bunch of addicts out there. I mean, I only used maybe 20 pills the whole 8 months, but to get those 20 pills, I had to fight as if I was an addict. And it's really a shame. The war against opioids is actually hurting people with excruciating pain that can't, deal with it.
And I believe on the black market, they're incredibly expensive. I mean, I got it administered one time for my leg surgery, and I got withdrawals. Because I've gone through my fair experimentation with recreational drugs in Holland as well. So I recognized it immediately when I had my surgery, and I can't even remember. I think it was morphine. Withdrawals for 3 days, constipation, all that stuff. It's in a single administration.
So how do you
Oh.
repopulate with good bacteria? Like you just do probiotic rich foods and you have supplementation, or like what?
Not foods. No. There are excellent probiotic formulations, top line ones, and this is what I look for. First of all, I go through third-party reviewed services, which you should always use, especially with probiotics, because a lot of them are not alive when they get to you, and you need a currently third reviewed one. Second of all, you want to know which bacteria strains you're looking for, and then don't be tricked don't go into CVS and find that expensive brand that has 3 species in it. You want it. One of the key factors of all the microbiome research is diversity of species. So you want diversity, and then you want some key species, which unfortunately I never remember the names and can't pronounce them. That's why I'm not being specific. But I use personally 5 probiotic refrigerated. These are my most expensive supplements every month. And if you stop using them for 2 months, your microbiome will revert to what it wants to be genetically with your environment. And by the way, there are single nucleotide polymorphisms that determine how much of a variety of your microbiome will have naturally. So you are actually, it's just like taking TRT, you're replacing,
Yeah.
Should have you check mine through the genome I sent you. That might
Oh,
be
yeah.
interesting. Yeah,
I
because
can.
that's something I'm like fairly unexplored, but I think like I would like to learn more about for sure.
Yeah. So I had to reverse my digestive issues with eliminations diet and, nuke it with all kinds of antibiotics because I got a ton of digestive issues from a year of traveling. And then by the time I was in China, it was so bad that I was literally passing gas everywhere all the time. I walked the Chinese wall just passing gas. It was crazy. So yeah, it was crazy. 13 kilometers of the Chinese wall, just the whole time. I didn't even have breakfast. I just went there on an empty stomach. Yeah, disgusting. So by the time I came home, and then I went to Mongolia, which is all dairy products. So that was even worse. I think I was farting more than the horse. So by the time I came back, yeah, I had to do an elimination diet, and then I did so many things like fasting. That's the first time I fasted. I know it was terrible.
I get this picture of the Mongolian with the wall, and then he goes,
Yeah,
the
so I
Chinese
went to
wall, and then goes to Mongolia.
go to Mongolia, 18 days on a horse to explore the Tsatan reindeer herders, just passing gas all the way through. It was horrible. So I came back home, did my fast, and then after a while I got so upset with this elimination diet that wasn't working, FODMAP diet, that I got every antibiotic because there was no information on this, and just took them all for 3 weeks straight. And then my digestion was even worse. And then I went back on a FODMAP diet, elimination diet, and I repopulated with raw food. So everything raw, even the chicken. even the chicken, which I boiled the outside. Yeah, I got it from
Uh-huh.
an organic farmer, so there's no risk of salmonella.
Mm.
And that's how I was able to repopulate. But I still have to follow a FODMAP diet.
Wait, no risk of
You-
salmonella because it's an organic farm? Why would you think that?
That's what they
No.
told me at the time. This
There's
is like
risk
10
of
years ago.
salmonella, brother. There's total risk, but it's okay. It worked
Right.
out. Thank
Yeah,
God.
it worked out. So it's but it took me a long time to get that under control. We're talking about years, and I still have an extensive list of doing this, maybe 2 or 3 year elimination diet of foods that I can eat and can't eat. But there's still food coming in and out of this list. Like I was allergic for eggs for a while, gave me gas, and then I had to eliminate it for 6 months, and now I can eat it just fine. It just the quantity as well, and it's the issue with bodybuilder. We'll always eat the same food, chicken, broccoli.
Like in
Brown rice.
general, if you have to ask what are the symptoms of like GI distress, you probably don't have it. Is that fair to say? Because like for me, I'm trying to think about how.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. Oh, well, except one thing. This is the key sign, huh? If you have liquid stools for a while and it doesn't bother you, but they're liquid because you're a tough guy and you don't think about it, that's what I was
Right.
doing. 3 years on steroids, liquid stools, never thought about it. Tough guy. I don't talk about that stuff.
Yeah, right.
Then I got Crohn's disease.
Huh.
Your power
'Cause I
through,
always- have followers and stuff talk about their GI issues and stuff, and for me, I've always wondered, like, I try to have a good diet, but it's not always dialed in. Then I wonder, do I have maybe some underlying issue too? But it's not like I have brutal distension. Stools are always solid. I don't have anything that really makes it seem like it, but I'm still always trying to optimize. So I was wondering
Yeah.
if there could be some sort of underlying sign that's not like a blatant symptom, because it seems like everyone knows pretty obviously when they have a problem. I
Yeah.
don't know.
You could still have H. pylori, by the way, but that has nothing to do with that because that could
Yeah.
still just be there. But
If you're untraveled, is that still likely though?
No, unlikely.
Like if I'm in Canada pretty much my whole life, is it likely that I have H. pylori?
I don't even think it lives in Canada. It might
Oh,
not.
fuck.
It's cold.
There
It's
we
What,
go.
cold.
what
It's
if
real cold.
you're intimate with a girl that has been traveling a lot? Is that possible to,
It-
just
no,
like that?
It absolutely is, and I know someone it just happened to.